This week on Sunday, we'll be taking a look at how Donald Trump, President of the United States, has responded to his personal experience with coronavirus in the wake of his return to the campaign trail this week, ahead of the presidential election on the 3rd of November. Bloomberg reported that, on Monday, at a rally in Florida, Trump said that he felt so powerful after his recovery from COVID-19, and that he wanted to walk into the audience and kiss everyone. End quote. For those of you still watching, having resisted the urge to run a mile on learning that Trump is our focus today, hopefully the thinker we are using to philosophically analyse this won't change your mind about staying either. We will be using Lacan, the infamous philosopher and psychoanalyst, to analyse Trump's comments this week. In applying Lacan, we will ask how is Trump's language here shaping his conception of his self? And what does this have to do with the Lacanian concept of the real? There's a lot to unpack this week, so I'm going to try and quickly sketch out the key concepts of Lacan that we'll be referring to. In a nutshell, Lacan says that prior to 6 months old, a child has no conception of its own particularity. That is, it has no sense of its own selfhood. Instead, the assumption is that it's part of this unitary whole that is the mother, or primary caregiver. Important to bear in mind is that even this primordial feeling of wholeness is a fiction. Between the ages of 6 months and 18 months, Lacan says that the child becomes aware of its own distinctiveness, of its own individual identity as separate to its mother, or primary caregiver. Lacan calls this stage, between the ages of 6 months and 18 months, the mirror stage. The mirror stage is the initial moment of ego formation, according to Lacan, where the child has looked into the mirror and for the first time realised that it is I. It has realised this via specular image. On this point, the image represents a fictional anticipation of the not yet achieved unity of bodily sensation that the infant will soon obtain. End quote. Notably, Lacan points out this I is actually an ideal I, because it is anticipating that it will, once again, become a unitary whole on its own. This is, once again, a fiction. The child, throughout its life, will seek to once again obtain this feeling of wholeness that was felt prior to alienation, that is, the distinctiveness of itself. It demands this feeling of wholeness. Consequently, this wholeness becomes desired, and so the objective of desire is to realise this feeling. Here then, this desire to feel whole again is manifested in earthly desire. For example, the desire for a career, for a house to be made into a home, for a family, for a partner, etc. However, this desire can never be satisfied, because once one desire is achieved, another crops up in its place. This is the nature of desire, but it is also the nature of a never-ending journey to a place that does not exist. This fictitious place, this imaginary point, this made-up feeling of wholeness, is a destination that Lacan calls the real. The real is that primordial state of unity. It was that point in time in which the child felt whole. The real is where the other does not exist. There is no alienation, there is no difference. Simply put, the real is the point when the child was not the I, but was part of the one whole that is the mother, or primary caregiver. At various points in time, we come to realise that the real is not so real at all, and it is actually a void of meaning, because meaning itself relies on alienation. These points in time are usually the result of traumatic events, which mirrors the original trauma of alienation. These traumatic events destroy all meaning that we have given to our lives, and by extension, ourselves. One way in which people cope with this realisation is narcissism, that is, the overemphasising of your own self-importance. It is on that note that we turn to Trump, the ultra-narcissist, who even prior to his brush with the deadly virus, overemphasised his own importance to the world. Applying Lacan, we can argue that Trump has, throughout his life, via desire, sought to regain his place in the real. Whether that be through business, making money, creating TV shows around himself, emphasising his business acumen, or through politics, declaring his greatness. Make America great again, end quote, and even just getting elected. but we can focus specifically on his recent comment of feeling so powerful, end quote. In saying that, Trump is not only over-egging his own importance to the world and to existence, he's not only directing that comment to his opponents and his supporters, he's directing it to the real. He is saying to this void of meaning, which the trauma of him and his immediate family contracting COVID exposed him to, that he is whole, he has meaning, he has value. Considering this analysis, you can also view his bid for re-election as being, ironically, the desire for that reconfirmation by others of his own importance, of his own value. To conclude then, you could say that Trump's use of language shapes his conception of selfhood as being a unitary whole, of being one of inherent meaning and value. This, we know from Lacanian analysis, is not, and can never be, the case for anyone, not even Trump. This marks the end of the 6th episode of DeadPhilSundays. We hope you enjoyed it, and that we'll see you again next week.